think the British national identity is very confused. I don't think there is one. I don't feel like I belong as part of a British national identity. I think it's like a melting pot. The idea of a national identity should be multicultural in its nature anyway. I think having one specific culture as your national identity makes you seem very... I think it's crossed between like patriotism and nationalism, but not in a good way. Not a good patriotism. There's nationalism as in having pride in where you come from, and there's nationalism as having hatred for other nations. I think you've got to not cross that line.
The personal interests of people like me are better met through the European idea, as it were. But it also happens to be that I belong to a different socio-economic group, in that I'm highly educated in a sense, and highly capable in that sense to operate in a different country professionally because of the setup of universities across Europe, and that makes it much easier.
Nationality is kind of important, a little bit 50-50. I think people can take it too far. It gives you a little sense of what you and your country and your fellow countrymen are about, but some people take it to extremes, so defining British as pubs and fish and chips and things like that, when really it's a collective of loads of different cultures that you inherit over many years.
Do I feel a strong sense of national identity? To be British, there is that stereotype, we all have bad teeth, we all like tea, we all adore the Queen, blah blah blah, but I don't really think I identify to any of that. Like, I'm more of a coffee drinker myself.
In my head, I think it's just because I'm a younger generation. The idea that I was born when we were in the EU, and therefore I don't remember a time when we weren't. And so I've never thought of Britain and gone, oh, they're part of the EU, that's a bad thing. I think for some of the older generations who voted based on the fact that when they were young, they weren't part of the EU and therefore everything was fine. However, still in my head, the idea of a national identity at that point wasn't very developed for Britain. I think Britain has always been very multicultural, and I think that's a positive rather than a negative, but I think they're trying to make it into a dirty phrase when in reality that's realistically what Britain is to me.
That is not necessarily the case for others who cannot see themselves, not through their own fault actually, who haven't got those similar opportunities abroad. It's not that straightforward then to travel to Germany and work there, say, or anywhere in Spain or something, if you identify here, if you're living here on a council estate and you're struggling and you can't even pay for the loaf of bread you need, then that is a totally different position. And then the identity so on the one hand, yes, you have the European identity, but clearly there is a large number of people who are not well served by that.
I'm a little bit worried, to be honest. I think the whole hard Brexit thing is now a very strongly debated and poorly planned move that we've decided is a good idea. The idea that the advertising more people voted in the EU for a referendum than have ever voted in Britain ever, and I don't think that's a coincidence. I don't think that's because people thought they needed to vote. I think it's because there was a big rush of people to vote and they haven't understood the situation, or they've misread the situation, or they've read the side of a bus, and now we're moving into something that isn't going to be positive.
Again, like, everyone wants to be part of something, everyone wants to be like part of something bigger, but I don't really think sort of in my day-to-day life what it really brings to the table, you know?
For younger people anyway. I think the older generation remembers a time when we weren't in the EU and we were still fine. However, I think that growth with the EU would have been preferable, but the idea that we leave the EU and our national identity gets stronger, to me, is a bit of a non-argument, in that I don't think it will. I don't think now, we're leaving the EU, that'll make us more British. I think you're always British whether we're in the EU or not.
What do you think makes you British?
That's the problem. The fact that what makes me British is the fact that I was born in Britain, and that's it. That's as far as my ties to the idea of being British go.